Welcome to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martin of Radio 107.9 FM, respective radio stations island-wide, Tel TV Plus Channel 15 viewers, and online viewers. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 12, 2025. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Melissa Gums, to address you. Minister Gums, you have the floor.
Good morning, members of the media, my colleague ministers, and people of St. Martin. Today, I'd like to provide some updates on several key initiatives within the Ministry of ECYS. As I enter my third month in office, my cabinet and I remain committed to strengthening the ministry's operations and enhancing services for our students, educators, and all stakeholders. Yesterday, I met with a delegation from the Collectivité of St. Martin to explore collaboration opportunities in the areas of education, culture, youth, and particularly sports. As one island, I believe we have much to gain by working together to address challenges and create greater opportunities for our young people. During my tenure in Parliament, some of you may know I spoke passionately about expanding cooperation with our neighbours to the north, and I'm happy to report that yesterday's discussions were fruitful and very promising, and we're looking at potential agreements that will foster joint programs, student and teacher exchanges, and shared sports initiatives. We discussed during that meeting some measurable steps that could be taken to improve cooperation across several topics under my purview as minister, including, like I mentioned, programs such as study and work exchange and co-hosting certain sport initiatives. Meeting with Mr. Bryan, the director of CETOS, we shared information as well on the central kitchen and school canteens with the intention to identify collaborative possibilities and improve our own schools' functioning when it comes to meals. And I hope to provide an update on some key objectives we identified by the end of March 2025. It's my firm belief that strengthening our cross-border cooperation would be beneficial for both sides of the island, and as Minister, it's now my honor to get to move the needle forward on this very important topic. Additionally, following very productive meetings with all school boards held in January this year and also at the end of February, I will begin a series of school visits to engage with school managers and conduct facility inspections in collaboration with the Ministry of VSA and the Ministry of ROMI. These visits are going to allow me to assess the current state of our schools, identify urgent infrastructural needs, and ensure that our learning environments are safe, healthy, and conducive to student success and student and teacher well-being. I'm aiming to take a proactive approach, and I'm committed to addressing these concerns in a timely and structured manner. Additionally, we've commenced with a ministry optimization initiative. As a new minister of ECYS, one of my priorities, as I mentioned, is laying the groundwork for transformative change over the next 4 years by adopting a phased and strategic approach. This approach is centered on making the ministry more agile, improving workplace culture, and enhancing public perception while prioritizing key educational outcomes such as literacy and numeracy. To begin this process, we're going to soon start with an internal assessment to evaluate the efficiency of the ministry's structure, policies, and workflows, as well as an external stakeholder satisfaction survey. These assessments are going to allow us to identify inefficiencies, address gaps, and establish a clear roadmap for sustainable improvements. By streamlining our internal operations, we're aiming to create a more responsive and results-driven ministry that effectively serves educators, students, and the wider community. Our goal is to always foster a culture of accountability and excellence and to ensure that our ministry evolves into a modern institution that meets the needs of our people. Following that, the ministry, through the Department of Education, has officially commenced the comprehensive review and evaluation of foundation-based education in collaboration with consultants from CLIME, Creative Leadership and Innovative Management Bureau. This review is essential in assessing the effectiveness of our primary education system, ensuring that it's aligned with the needs of students and the evolving global educational landscape. Through this process, we will identify strengths, address gaps, and implement necessary reforms to improve learning outcomes. Stakeholder engagement, of course, is a critical part of this review, and we will ensure that educators, school boards, and parents have a voice in shaping the future of education on St. Martin. The evaluation is expected to take place over the coming months, and it will include a series of these stakeholder consultations, some field assessments, and data-driven analyses. And as Minister, I encourage and invite all educators, parents, community leaders, and interested parties to participate actively by sharing insights and feedback throughout the process. So in closing, the initiatives I shared today reflect our ministry's commitment to strengthening our educational, cultural, and sporting landscapes. We recognize that collaboration, strategic planning, and active engagement with stakeholders is crucial to achieving meaningful success and progress. I appreciate the continued support from the hardworking civil servants in this ministry, our educators, students, parents, and the broader community as we work towards building a more resilient and dynamic sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gums, for your opening remarks. We will allow for the media to ask the questions once all ministers have presented. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, Patrice Gums Jr., to address you. Minister Gums, you have the floor.
Good morning, members of the media, listening and viewing public. Just a couple of updates to my side this morning. Very quickly, I'd like to also begin by making mention of the success thus far of the app that's been launched by the ministry, in particular the Department of Inspection. We have gathered a lot of information and data, sometimes not even related to VROMI, and within the next month, we're going to share that data as well. Coming out of that data, what has become very apparent is that people are not respecting stop and removal orders. This will be strictly enforced going forward. Just some more information, when a person gets a stop order, they're required to stop the work that's ongoing. When they receive a removal order, they have a certain time frame on the letter that they receive where they are to remove the construction at their own cost. When they don't remove it at their own cost within their own time, it is sent to the Public Works Department to carry out, which is now under the Department of Infrastructure. Infrastructure contacts them, lets them know they are coming, and the police is also contacted, and it's removed by Infrastructure, and a cost is made up and sent to the owner. While I understand it's very challenging in a small community to take such tough decisions, we have to also realize that if we want to live in a decent place, we have to also respect our neighbors. As such, I will be executing stop orders and removal orders with force going forward. So please bear in mind, if you have them pending and have not done so, please do so within the time frame. Excuse me. I'd like to also give a couple of updates on 3 building permits in particular that have, well, 2 in particular that have given quite some interest in the community, and 1 in particular which I have recently approved. While I remain very much about transparency, I think it's very important to have these discussed publicly because they do involve big developments. I'll begin with the permit issued to Noble Estate, which has been in court as well. A little background, the permit originally requested government to allow for the construction of 7 buildings on the hillside next to what is now the Hills development. VROMI in 2022 or 2023 approved 4 of those buildings. The court deemed that the negative advice for 7 was not well substantiated, and we were taken to court. Under my administration, we were able to substantiate why exactly those 4 buildings were the ones that were allowed. It considered things like the hillside policy, as well as the need to address comprehensive drainage going forward. This has now been sent back to the court for decision-making. On Ville 20, which I think has become quite controversial in the media, I'd like to best begin that Ville 20 received their building permit in 2023. This building permit, though they did not receive the civil works permit as yet. The 2023 building permit was not published. This will be published, we found out now, but we will have it published in the next National Gazette, so we instruct everyone to look out for that as well. One thing we also realized that Ville 20 was not required to do an environmental impact study when they were issued the building permit, and as such, I've requested them to do an environmental impact study, noting that we've discovered that the beach itself contains one of the last remaining and thriving elkhorn coral reefs on the island. As such, there will also be discussions about the possibility to continue to place sand in that area, as it is not a naturally occurring area for sand. It is a stone beach, and as such, discussions around the possibility of continuing that initiative and a marina are going to be looked at and reviewed. Finally, on the topic of the permits, I have, in all transparency, and I really believe in it, I have approved my first large development, which is a 10-story condo building in the area of Porto, in the area of Blue Marine on the ridge overlooking the airport. This was done with much consideration to the policies. We also requested a letter of no objection from the airport, given that it could potentially in that area have impact on radar and airport services. And we also were in close consultation with GEBE. That area also already includes a number of apartment buildings and complexes, and as such was deemed by policy to not be a problem for approval. Finally, a bit more positive news. Following our trip to Aruba, I must say again, thank you to my colleague Minister Aarons for hosting us in Aruba. One of the key things that we spoke about was the need to involve the private sector. I think that's very critical. And since coming back, we've already hosted several meetings with individuals who are already involved locally in the waste management sector. And as well, I want to make mention of the suggestion made by a member of the media, Mr. Lee, regarding the net metering. We did have an opportunity to get a copy of Elmar's solar policy that also makes possibilities and outlines how net metering works to give back to the grid. And we're going to follow up with a meeting, of course, with the relevant Minister of Energy when the new government swears in by the end of this month. Having said that, those are my brief updates, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gums, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labour, Richinel Brug, to address you. Minister Brug, you have the floor.
Blessings, people of St. Maarten. Blessings, media. As it regards the update for VSA, I have the following. Regarding this month is recognized as Health Heart Awareness Month. Regarding the Health Heart Awareness Month, I would like to commend the St. Maarten Heart and Stroke Foundation for all activities that they have executed and those that they still have to execute within the coming days. Their next event is in collaboration with CPS, which is a walkathon scheduled for Saturday, February 15th, 2025 at 4:30, starting from the CPS building in the Vineyard Courtyard. In addition, in recognition of this cause, we urge everyone to please wear red every Friday for the month of February. So this Friday, we're going to double up on the red, considering it's Valentine's Day. But considering this matter, I would also like to advise the public of St. Maarten. This month may be about Heart Health Awareness Month, but don't leave the actions only be limited to this month. Please, it is noted that a lot of our individuals are getting heart stroke from a very young age, as young as 40 and the late 30s. As Minister of VSA, I'm recommending individuals to please start eating nutritious meals, start moving, doing activities, and also take regular checkups. It's very important. And yes, eating healthy is very expensive, but if you have to choose between the two, your life or your health, I would choose my life. Turning to the next update. There have been rumors and a safe work environment. There have been certain rumors, and also with regard to the safe work environment in VSA. There is currently a case of possible sexual harassment within the Ministry of VSA that is being investigated. To avoid any misunderstanding, I want to make it clear that when it comes to maintaining a safe work environment and ensuring the process takes its course, privacy is of utmost importance. As civil servants fall directly under the Ministry of General Affairs, and P&O is the department by law responsible for the handling of such matters, the Prime Minister will be the person to respond to any further questions on this matter. I do want to emphasize that as Minister of VSA, I place great importance in a safe working. As Minister of VSA, I place great importance in a safe working place for all VSA staff. Every employee should feel safe, respected, and comfortable in all interaction with colleagues or the public. Regarding the form of a new ad hoc committee, since taking office, I have been made aware through concerns raised by certain members of Parliament, individuals, complaints, and files by the Ombudsman that there is a significant issue in the handling of labor complaints in the Ministry of VSA. Addressing this concern is a priority. To ensure a structured and effective response, I have submitted a draft ministerial decree to the Legal Affairs for review and publication. This decree aims to establish an ad hoc committee dedicated to tackling existing labor complaints against the ministry. Through this initiative, we are committed to improving transparency, fairness, efficiency in resolving labor-related grievances. We will provide further update as the process moves forward. Shifting focus to Men's Mental Health Awareness Foundation. I had the pleasure to meet and discuss ongoing and future mental health initiatives. The President, Mr. Gums, presented the Foundation's recent achievement and outlined its upcoming programs for 2025, including, which are Social Workers Outreach Program, aimed to extend mental health support within the community, high school support groups, establishing peer support systems for students, Dad and Me Sports Day, promoting mental well-being through family engagement in sports, Barbershop Talk, an initiative creating informal space for men to discuss mental health topics. I commend Mr. Gums for his dedicated focus on men's mental health, an area often overshadowed in the broader mental health initiative. As President Gums highlighted, the positive progress of both existing and new programs. I, as Minister, reaffirm my commitment to enhance the mental health awareness and support across Maarten. Collaborative efforts like these are essential. Addressing the unique challenges faced by men in our community is definitely commendable and will be addressed. This brings me to the Trimbos Institute. In a significant move to enhance mental health service, St. Maarten's Mental Health Project has partnered with Trimbos Institute, a renowned Dutch research organization. This collaboration, founded by the St. Maarten Trust Fund and implemented by the NRPB, alongside the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, aims to develop sustainable, community-focused mental health service tailored for the island. Trimbos will provide technical expertise to reshape the sector, ensuring all residents have access to timely, high-quality mental health care. The partnership includes a comprehensive assessment of current mental health services, guidance on creating an inclusive mental health framework, and training program to build local professional capacity. It will also support the finalization of the National Health Action Plan, improve governance structure, and offer relevant strategies to ensure high quality care for all residents. Reflecting on the agreement, Chambers' expertise will help build us a strong foundation for mental health services in St. Maarten with long-term benefits to the community. Building on that, I want to talk about the comprehensive healthcare reform. When speaking about mental health, I want to make it clear to the public that it does not stop here, or it's not stop there. As previously mentioned, I am looking at healthcare system of St. Maarten as a whole. One of the steps in this approach is to review our current insurance services and the provided healthcare based on this. As Minister of VSA, I have prioritized this matter this month. A key component of this process involved collaboration with collaboration with SZV. We are examining the current challenges faced by the insurance company as well as its opportunities. Opportunities lies in expanding the pool of insured individuals and ensuring sustainable funds to enhance the overall health infrastructure and deliver improved care to our community. Additionally, it is crucial to critically assess the current use of funds and explore possibilities for cost-effective healthcare, meaning maintaining high-quality care while achieving cost savings where feasible. I am committed with collaborating with all stakeholders to ensure that a holistic healthcare system is tailored to the needs of St. Maarten, reflects our dedication to the well-being of every resident. Let's see, one more document. Okay. Last press briefing 2 weeks ago, there was a question posed to me pertaining to why was there a design change in the hospital. The redesign of the hospital came after experiencing the wind speeds of Irma. St. Maarten Medical Center had to make sure that the building could withstand winds over 200 miles per hour. There was a question also asked just after the press briefing, but I'm going to answer it now. What was the total outstanding of the OZR? During our meeting with St. Maarten Medical Center, stated that the total outstanding of OZR will be approximately 17 million by the end of this year. If I am not mistaken, the current figure is currently about 14 million. That is the end of my updates as it regards to developments within VSA and also the feedback for the questions that were asked that I had a responsibility to return to give the answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Brug, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Dr. Luc Marcelina, to address you. Prime Minister Marcelina, you have the floor.
People of St. Maarten, representatives of the media, the members of DCOM, my colleague ministers, good morning. First of all, I would like to inform you about a cell broadcast emergency warning system that we are intending to implement for the Society of St. Maarten. I think as a government, our priority is, of course, to ensure the safety and well-being of our people through efficient and reliable emergency response system. and recognizing the vulnerability of St. Maarten to the effects of a wide range of natural and human-induced disasters, the government of St. Maarten initiated the project, the design of a modern and reliable early warning system. This early warning system project's focuses on implementing a reliable and effective early warning system for a timely dissemination of warnings for the community. This project was made possible through the funding from the EU named the Resembied. The Resembied sponsored this program, as well as the World Bank, and implemented through the NRPB. In addition to the aforementioned, it's noteworthy that the warning system needed to be constructed, especially for the local situation of St. Maarten. We had to start building this up from ground up to get a good, reliable system for St. Maarten. Today I'm pleased to announce the introduction of this cell broadcast warning system, which will significantly enhance how we communicate with each other in urgent alerts during disasters. The testing will begin in March and with a full launch set for June the 1st, ensuring we are fully prepared ahead of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. The government is currently in a memorandum of understanding with the BTP, the World Bank and the NRPB, Flow and Telem, to execute this project. This system allows emergency services to send instant location-based alerts directly to mobile phones in affected areas. It's a very efficient system. Alerts will be used for a range of emergencies, including, for example, hurricanes, flooding, tsunamis, fires, and other critical situations requiring immediate public attention. Secondly, why we chose for this cell broadcast and why it's more efficient than sirens. First of all, it's more hurricane resistant and reliable. Sirens are not hurricane resistant and can be damaged and destroyed by climate changes, strong winds, and flying debris. Well, that is not the case if we use this type of communication. Additionally, they require logistical planning for removal and reinstallation in times of hurricane, while that is the time that we need them. The cell broadcast system, on the other hand, operates through mobile network, which are built with redundancy and backup power to function even in quite adverse conditions. It has also a wider range and accessibility. It is clear, direct, and we can do the message in different languages. It's a multi-language approach for the populace. It's more cost-effective and low maintenance. And it's also effective during the outage of power. We can continue using this system. The testing phase begins in March, during which selected alerts will be sent to evaluate efficiency of the system and its reliability. We will also conduct public awareness campaigns before definitive introduction, and the definitive launch is set for June the 1st. That is the first news that I have. And secondly, of course, as the Minister of VSA just mentioned, we had enormous restlessness in the social media concerning some allegation of harassment in the organization. And if there is any questions about that, as the Minister of VSA said, being I'm the Minister of General Affairs and over personnel, also P&O, I am open to any question or discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your opening remarks. If you have just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 12, 2025. We now move over to the question and answer session. And Bibi Hadshaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, colleagues, ministers. Good morning. My first question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Marcelina.
Yeah.
You mentioned restlessness.
Yep.
Another minister, rumor.
Yeah.
Minister, when there is evidence, there is no longer a rumor. When two complaints have been filed, this is no longer a rumor. What I'd like to know, as a mother to a father of a young daughter, Dr. Marcelina, have you met with the victim in this case? Why is the victim being victimized over and over? And after several times being heard, only yesterday a process verbal was taken. Have there been any disciplinary measures? Prime Minister, there are cases from the time you took office, not a month later, a civil servant was sent home for allegations. I haven't seen any evidence yet. Allegations of wrongdoing. But here you have a case where the victim provided evidence of harassment and that person is still on the job. Can you tell me what are the processes and what does the ILO convention says about harassment, especially sexual harassment in the workplace? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hodge, for your question. I first of all want to make a few general statements concerning this topic and your questions. It is a culture of St. Maarten that sensitive things and in and outs of a organization has to be one of the other way legitimized to be discussed in public and in social media and in the media. And preferable how we saw it, it always have to catch up with a sensational dimension. Realizing this development every time again in this community, as a leader of government, I think that it's time for me to prove my community that we should deal differently with these sensitive topics. It should not be used for social media entertainment and sensationalism. I have, as Prime Minister, a task to secure the trust and the safety of my people, but especially the civil servants that I had as Minister of General Affairs. I have to guardian confidentiality of the people that work in my organization. I have to handle these cases with integrity. And fourth, everything has to happen in a context of professionalism. All the cases that present has to be taken care of expeditiously and, of course, with objectivity. The necessary due diligence must take place, especially realizing the sensitivity of the matter and also considering the vulnerability of the ones involved in these cases. As the Prime Minister leading this government, I do not feel I have any urge to entertain social media with direct questions when, why, and how long each encounter took place. This is for my organization, thinking on the protection, the safety, the trust, and the integrity of my organization. How is it being taken care of in general? I have no problem to give some exposure on how it works in my organization. But one thing, it starts with an incident, allegation to whatever. It can be verbal aggression on the work floor. It can be physical violence, bullying, intimidation, theft, fraud, harassment in whatever form. These are ways that not desired behavior can present not only in government, but in all working spaces this can take place. What is important for me is to guardian for a work establishment, work atmosphere that people can feel safe, and in case something happens, that they feel comfortable, they have the trust, the confidence that it's going to be taken care of. And that is what we are going to do. About the policy at place. All types of incidents that I just mentioned, verbal, physical, intimidation, bullying, are going to be handled in a way that there is for this a work process, a norm in our organization, and I will go in details about it. First of all, how does that work? How does the process work? First of all, an incident presents. For example, an harassment. It's an allegation that something happened. First of all, we have to verify what did happen. And already we are talking in social media about the victim and the perpetrator while we are in the phase of investigating the case. I think that is wrong for both parties. It is as such already wrong that this happens, that there may be a victim and a perpetrator, but I think it's extremely wrong that the investigation is taking place and we're talking about victim already and perpetrator. I think that is not correct to those involved. So we have to respect these people too. They have feelings, they have their integrity, they have their pride, and we are all over the place with them on social media and in the press. I think that is not correct, and I don't think I want to actually entertain this form of dealing with especially what I can speak for my organization. An incident takes place. What happens? The person that is involved in that incident has the first priority to share it with whoever he or she wants. That is her basic right to start with. Secondly, in the organization, the way the process goes is that the person contacts his or her manager, and from there on, the manager discusses, has a conversation with the person, and then makes a conclusion and say, I'm going to delegate this to the Department of P&O, Personeel en Organisatie. The person is then guided to P&O, and there is a first meeting. There is the exploration of the incident, talk about the problem, and then after having understood the dimension of the complaint, we have to document it for us to move forward with the case. A documentation takes place, we call that a report, a process verbal, and from there on, we start then with the investigation of what has been documented. That is again another step, and that is actually the hearing that has to take place. It's also described in the LMA, as everybody is talking about the LMA. This is the process, how it works, is also guided by the LMA. That's the complainer, the one that complains about the incident. After we have documented, analyzed after the hearing what transpired, we have now to go to the other party, the counterpartner, and that is the complainant. That's the one that you're complaining about. The same process takes place. First, we have to speak with the person, understand the dynamics of the incident, a report is being made. And then we call that also a process verbal. We have one from the one complaining, and we have a report from the complainant. After that, we organize sometimes, if it's necessary, there is a third party involved also in an incident. Somebody that saw the incident, heard about it, was there listening to what happened, heard that somebody hit another person, visual interpretation of what happened. Sometimes there is a third party that you have to hear to get evidence if whatever has been reported, if that is correct. So we go sometimes also to actually consult third parties that may be involved in the incident that the complainer and the complainants is talking about. In the meantime, talking with the victim, if it's a victim, if we can call it a victim, or actually we're not talking about a victim, we're talking about the one complaining, the complainer, sometimes we realize that that person is very touched, psychologically wise, physically wise, that we think, no, in the meantime, we think there needs professional help. A house doctor can be involved in the case, a psychologist can be, or no, we have a counselor in our organization that in the meantime also can parallel with the procedure that is being followed, is also included in the case. After we have had our hoor en wederhoor, that is how we call it in Dutch, hearing and counter-hearing of all the parties involved in the incident. A report is drafted by P&O, and this report is actually then delivered to the Secretary General and also to the head of P&O. So listen, we have done our research. This is the end conclusion, how we see it. This is a copy for the department head, the manager of the department under which the person falls, and this is for the hierarchy, you have to respect that too, and you give a copy to the SG, the Secretary General. And then the Secretary General, with the P&O, they have the advices related to the end report, and that is then presented to the minister. So the minister then receives the report, he then draws his conclusion, thinks what is more for me to do in this, perhaps I want to talk with people or not, but anyway I have a report after investigation, I have some advices, and then it's up to the minister, what am I going to do with this particular incident? And in this case it can be an informal warning, it can be a formal warning, it can also be a disciplinary measure. It can be a suspension or even a dismissal, if that is the case. So in principle, it starts with a claim in the direction of whatever incident, as I mentioned a few, physical, sexual, bullying, and then it gets more, it crystallizes in a formal incident. And then depending what it is, we walk the walk structurally that I have just explained to you all. And that is the way the system works. And I think that is the way professionally also you should deal with such cases. I regret and condemn that these things happen on the work floor, but we have to realize something very good. The more you have more than one person on the work floor, there is a potential that something that is not desirable can happen between two persons that is not the intention to happen on the work floor. For example, that bullying, physical violence, sexual harassment are things that happen and can happen, but I condemn and should not happen. But we must not make it come over as if something went wrong in that organization because the organization failed. No, the organization wants things to go good for everybody. The organization works to work on a safe environment for everybody. And if something happens that we cannot be in the brains of those causing the problem, we should still maintain the sentiment that we have to radiate, that we are working, giving attention to the cases, and make sure that there is still trust, that we guardian confidentiality, and especially protect those that have been involved in that incident. And that's why I was very reluctant and very careful to entertain the media for the entertainment of the sensationalism of sexual harassment. It's not about that. It's about creating a culture that we should not be interested in the sensation and knowing who it was, in which ministry the person worked, and what happened exactly, family of who that is. I think that is absolutely not relevant if we want to work towards a safe working place that has integrity, that can give trust to the people and guarantee the confidentiality that everybody can feel safe to move on the working floor. That is my reaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I would now like to invite Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald. You have the floor. I would also like to inform it will only be one round of questions as we are limited on time. Jacqueline, you have the floor.
Minister of Rome, please. Good morning, Minister. A couple of months ago in this press briefing, you announced that the way in which building permits would be published would change towards a more transparent way. Nonetheless, 3 times there have been a list in the National Gazette, and with the latest, when you look at the first permit, you can't object to it anymore because the 6 weeks time period has already lapsed. So how is this going to be avoided, and what is going to happen with these publications?
Yep, thank you so much, Jacqueline. And indeed, I think what we've discovered is a lot of building permits have been issued and never published. I know we had a discussion with some media already about the possibilities of actually publishing. Thank you. Actually publishing these permits in, for example, the daily newspaper. But I think it's also a question of making sure that everyone within the department is actually accountable for making sure the steps happen. For example, the permit I mentioned regarding Villevin issued about 2 years ago, and it's now going to be published in the National Gazette. What does that mean in terms of your right to actually object? And these are the things that, of course, if they're done either by accident or by choice, we have to investigate indeed. But I think too, it behooves me as minister to make sure that when I sign something, I make sure it's followed up on and I see it in the next National Gazette. So I think at every stage, everyone has to be held accountable to make sure they do their part. But whatever we sign, we try and make sure it gets out in the next National Gazette. Whatever happens in the past, we kind of find it out as we see construction happening. One of the challenges in the Ministry of Rumi, and it's very interesting, is that when permits come in, they're not actually booked in via a digital system. Everything comes in hard copy, something we're working to address. How can we actually put half of these permit requests into a system that anybody can see and actually monitor the physical files? If you were to go through the Department of Permits, the permits kind of sit on a desk or a floor, and that's where you get this issue of things come and things come back and they're not actually booked in properly. So I think in terms of management and document flow, we have to improve on that because accidents can happen, but oftentimes we have to ask ourselves, are they accidental or are they intentional? And I think those two things have to be addressed because again, it's also a part of good governance. It's not just a question of publishing for the sake of publishing, it's also making sure that steps and procedures are followed. So we are going to address that properly.
Thank you, Minister. I would now like to invite Stephen Cerulean of PGT Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. My question is for the Prime Minister, and maybe the Minister of ECYS can chime in as well. Prime Minister, in light of the upcoming Emancipation Day celebrations July 1st, the AXA committee has been established by the former government. Can you provide some information as to the status of this committee and the work being done? And how is the Ministry of Education at least taking the information to the students of the various schools to ensure a better understanding of what the works of the committee?
Prime Minister?
That was a question for me?
Yes, Prime Minister.
Can you repeat the question for me? I thought it was for the education.
I said the question is for the Prime Minister, and maybe the Minister of Education can chime in. My question was, in light of the upcoming Emancipation Day celebrations on July 1st, the AXA committee has been established. Yeah. Can you help us to understand as to the status of this committee, the work being done by them, and whether or not they are on track to achieving the goal as an entity?
Yes, this entity has been established. The Minister of Culture has been a motor also to, for sure, make sure that it becomes a functional group of people. And as you have asked me, are we on track to guide the process? For example, the date that you just mentioned with the AXAR, I'm under the impression that we are completely ready to move on with executing the responsibility of this group of people. Absolutely. That's the answer I have for you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Minister Gums.
You have more additional information?
Thank you, Stephen, for the question. I think the main goal of AXAR was to pursue reparations for slavery. I've asked, funny enough, prior to leaving Parliament, I did ask for an update on the committee's activities. It was not a very comprehensive update that I received. So they are one of my to be met with entities within government, because actually it was established, I believe, by General Affairs under former Prime Minister Jacobs. So it's my intention to reach out and sit with them. Department of Culture is aware that this is something that is also on my wish list of meetings to have as we lead up to preparations for Emancipation Day this year. So once I do meet with them and I have a more comprehensive update and I actually have something to share, then of course I will bring it back to press briefing for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gums. I would now like to invite Emma Lee of Island Unity Radio. You have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you. My question is, I believe, for the Prime Minister, although I believe it does touch almost all of the ministries, but I will address it to the Prime Minister.
Okay.
My question has to do with the legalization of marijuana. There's
Yes.
quite some discussions about that. And in the end, it will touch almost all of the different ministries from an education perspective, a health perspective. Is there consensus within the Council of Ministers on the legalization of marijuana? What is government's interest in the legalization of marijuana? Can you explain the process that it's going through? It's come to my understanding that the drafting of the legislation has been outsourced to a third party, and that same third party has an interest in later participating in the commercialization of that marijuana industry. Isn't that a conflict of interest that the same company drafting the legislation will eventually participate in it? So those are the questions regarding the marijuana.
Thank you for the information. Mr. Lee, the following. The marijuana topic has enormous implication, as you said, for all ministries. But I go further, it has implications for your children. And I have a position that I think that it has so many implications on socio-economic level that I have to make sure first that I'm well prepared for all the effects of this introduction, legalization, and the regulation of this marijuana. So I can explain you, we did it in the Netherlands. If there is a country that can legalize and regulate, you have to give the Dutch credit in that. They did not legalize it, but they tried to regulate it. But they're good in regulations too. You know how that society is organized. And until today, there are big challenges, although they are masters in regulating, with the implications and challenges of marijuana for the public. I'm not telling you I'm against or pro, but I'm not busy with legislation now. I'm busy making sure that if we get to that phase, my country, my community, my people must be well prepared for the effects on all levels and dimensions with the introduction of marijuana. We have challenges to get a good turning point in this country. We have major challenges with our health care. And we are talking now at this particular phase, while we have our challenges to organize our mental health care, about the legalization and regulation of marijuana. And I know that one day has to take place. But please, let us do the first things first for this country before we go to the second gear with this introduction of marijuana. Please.
So could you comment on what I've understood that the outsourcing of the development of the legislation has been given to a third party?
I'm not even that far in looking to this problem. My main concern is to make sure that I have a balanced community with a responsible, well-prepared mental health care and turning point organization and a good educational system for my children before I start thinking in that direction.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Members of the media, this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Any further questions can be sent to the Minister's Cabinet in writing. Before I close off, I would like to re-invite Minister Brugge, who would like to make one clarification to his opening statement.
Yes, thank you very much. The clarification I would like to make is that the OZR amount is 67 million, is approximately 67 million. So not the 70 million that I stated earlier or the 40 million, but 67 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Brugge. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 12, 2025. For rebroadcast, tune into stmartingov.org, St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Tel TV Plus Channel 15, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and YouTube channel Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach and wishing you a pleasant day further.